I bought my house on Birchwood Court in the spring, first home I'd ever owned by myself. 38 years old, saved for 6 years. I repainted the shutters myself, planted things in the front beds, spent an entire Saturday getting my mailbox post perfectly level. By July, I had a violation notice about that mailbox post. It said it was 4.2 inches off center. I measured it 3 times. Found nothing wrong. Paid the $60 fine because I was new and didn't understand yet that paying was exactly what Dale wanted. Dale Hutchins had been HOA president for 6 years, always in khakis, always with a clipboard, always walking the neighborhood at hours that felt too deliberate to be casual. The specific energy of a man who had found the one room in life where he was in charge and decided to live there permanently. His wife Carol was warm and funny, and everyone liked her. Nobody understood what she saw in him, which is something people only say out loud after they find out what someone actually is. By September, I had 2 more notices. Trash can allegedly left out too long. I had camera footage proving otherwise. Garden hose visible from the street it was in my garage. I paid both. $190 total for things that never happened. There is something about being fined for your own home that makes you feel like a guest in a place you own. Dale understood that feeling. He had been manufacturing it in people for 6 years. In October, a man named Marcus moved into the house at the end of the court. Pickup truck, 3 boxes, quiet. I didn't think much of it. In November, I got a $240 fine about my fence color, and something in me finally cracked. Not into anger, into clarity. I stopped paying and started asking questions. What I found was worse than I expected. Patricia, 3 doors down, had paid over $400 for a bird feeder. Jim and Rosalie at the corner paid $310 for holiday lights left up 2 days past the permitted window. Mr. Beaumont, 74 and living alone, had paid nearly $600 over 2 years for a driveway that looked perfectly fine to every human being who had ever seen it. And every single one of us was either new, elderly, or alone. Dale had been selecting targets the way a predator selects prey. Quietly, carefully, for years. I filed a formal audit request. 5 homeowners, which was all the bylaws required. Dale responded within 24 hours. Polite, cooperative, completely unbothered. I read it as confidence. I know now it was a man who had been doing this long enough to have contingency plans. The audit request triggered something I didn't expect. Dale started coming after me directly. New violations appeared out of nowhere: my hedge height, my porch light color temperature. A formal letter suggesting my non-compliance was creating a hostile environment for the community. He was trying to bury me in paperwork until fighting back felt more exhausting than giving up. It might have worked. Except that the same week I got that letter, my neighbor Linda mentioned something over the fence that stopped me cold. She said Marcus had mentioned he used to live in a neighborhood called Crestwood Hills. I looked it up that night. 20 minutes later, I was reading about a lawsuit from 4 years ago. An HOA president in Crestwood Hills had been removed after fraudulent fine collection was discovered. Funds missing. President's name redacted due to a settlement agreement. But the timeline fit. The methods fit. And there was one detail I read 3 times. Among the most heavily targeted homeowners was a man who owned a small landscaping business. The fines had contributed to significant financial and personal stress. He sold his business. He relocated. He died 8 months later. I was on Marcus's porch at 8 the next morning. He answered with a coffee in his hand and an expression that was not even slightly surprised. I said I wanted to talk about Dale. He opened the door wider and said he'd been wondering when one of us would show up. His father had built that landscaping business over 20 years. 3 employees, loyal clients, 40 years of work. The HOA violations started quietly: commercial vehicle in the driveway, equipment storage, signage. The fines stacked. The appeals went nowhere. His father spent his last year feeling like a trespasser in his own life. Marcus had spent 2 years tracking down where Dale went after Crestwood Hills. Then he bought a house on Birchwood Court and waited. Here is what I understood sitting at that table. Marcus couldn't be the public face of this. The settlement agreement meant legal exposure if his family spoke about Crestwood Hills. He had come to build the case from behind and find someone willing to stand in front of it. He had been waiting for me. Part of me was grateful. Part of me was furious at being a piece in someone else's plan without knowing it. I sat with that feeling for exactly 1 minute. Then I decided my anger was less important than what we could do together. I would be the face, but I would be nobody's puppet. I called Patricia, Jim, Rosalie, and Mr. Beaumont, and then I did something Marcus hadn't planned for. I called Carol. I had been watching her for months. The tired eyes at the mailbox, the smile at neighborhood events that didn't quite reach the thing behind her eyes. I didn't know what she knew. But I knew that woman was not happy, and whatever was coming, she deserved a warning before it arrived. She picked up on the second ring. I told her I needed to speak with her about something serious involving Dale. The pause that followed lasted long enough that I thought she might hang up. Then she said, "How serious?" I said, "The kind you need a lawyer for." She said she could meet me Thursday. I don't know exactly what Carol did between that call and Thursday. What I know is that on Tuesday night, Dale Hutchins knocked on my car window at 11 p.m. in my own driveway. I had seen him crossing the court as I pulled in. I stayed in the car because something about the way he was walking told me he was coming, and I wanted to be in a contained space when he arrived. He was not in khakis. His face was different, the pleasantness completely gone. He looked like a man who had calculated he was running out of time. He told me I was making a mistake, that the audit would find nothing, that I had lived here less than a year and had a non-compliance record, and he had 6 years of relationships and board votes, and I should think very carefully about what I was doing. He said it quietly, deliberately, like a man who had done this before. I let him finish. Then I said, "Dale, I spoke with Carol." He stopped. I said it again, slower. I spoke with Carol. What happened to his face in that moment I will carry with me for a long time. Not anger, not exactly fear. The specific expression of a man who has been building something for years and has just heard it begin to come apart. He walked back to his house without another word. Carol came Thursday and she brought a folder. 6 years of bank statements she had quietly printed from a joint account Dale didn't know she still accessed. Transfers she had noticed for years and never had a name for until I gave her one. The audit had its evidence before it even officially concluded. The February board meeting was not the quiet administrative process I had imagined. Dale showed up with a lawyer and a printed rebuttal document and the full intention of fighting. He had spent 2 weeks calling board members, questioning the audit, filing a harassment complaint against me personally. He sat across that table like a man who still believed he could win. Then his lawyer read the bank statement evidence. A silence fell over that room. The kind that happens when something is over and everyone knows it, and nobody has said it yet. It lasted about 45 seconds. Then the lawyer leaned over and whispered in Dale's ear. And Dale went still. $38,000 collected over 6 years. $19,000 unaccounted for. He resigned that night. The board voted immediately to pursue full recovery and refer everything to the county. Dale was charged 4 months later. Lost the house in the proceedings. Last I heard, he was renting an apartment across town. Carol filed for divorce the morning after the board meeting. She told me later she had made the appointment the same night I called her. She just needed Thursday to be sure. Marcus sold his house in April. I walked down one last time and he was on his porch with his coffee the same way he'd been that first morning. I asked him if it was enough. He was quiet for a moment. He said his father had given 40 years to building something and spent his last year feeling like a trespasser in his own life because of a man with a clipboard. He said he didn't know if enough was something you could ever actually reach. But the silence in that room in February, the moment Dale went still, he said that one was going to stay with him. He moved out on a Tuesday. Pickup truck, 3 boxes. Same as he arrived. Patricia still has the bird feeder. Mr. Beaumont used part of his refund to repave his driveway, the one that never needed fixing. He did it because he wanted to, because it was his. And my mailbox post is exactly where it has always been. Exactly where I put it.